Peace and Black Power family. Harlem educator, author, and activist, the Black Liberation Coach, Brother Agyei Tyehimba. I just want to take a few moments to welcome you to Harlem Liberation School's YouTube channel. Harlem Liberation School was started in 2016 by myself and my queen, and we basically saw that there was a lack of foundational Black political education going on in Harlem. We're not going to get up from under white supremacy without knowing how oppression works, how it affects and impacts in our community, the ways in which we internalize our own oppression and engage in self-defeating behavior and thinking, and our socio-political movements and our very important individuals and organizations throughout our history who played a leading role in fighting against and resisting and disrupting white supremacy. So Harlem Liberation School was founded as a Black political education center for adults. Because education is not just relegated to children. Adults need education. It's those of us adults who maybe when we were kids did not get that foundational Africana studies of Black political education. The things we need to know to be free and to fight effectively for our liberation. And so that's what we're here to do. We hope that you will come through, check us out, look at our videos, like them, comment on them, and share them. Peace and Black Power. Peace and Black Power family. Harlem educator, author, and activist, the Black Liberation Coach, Brother Agyei Tyehimba. I'm filming live on location at wonderful, historical, and political village of Harlem, New York City. Well, family, I hope everyone is doing well. I hope you're at peace while you're preparing to war back against anyone and any force that's warring against us. Remember that your denying that you're at war does not negate the fact that you are, in fact, being warred against. And the only logical sort of response when you're being warred against is to war back. And we can do that in many different ways. I want to begin by sincerely thanking all of you who came out in such a tremendous display of love and support with your happy 55th birthday wishes for yesterday, which was my double nickel, my 55th birthday. Some of you left some really, really heartfelt sort of testimonies and tributes, and I respect that and I appreciate it. And I mean, family, between hundreds in my email, hundreds in my inbox, hundreds on Facebook, was really overwhelming. And I don't have time to thank everyone individually, but I would like to say that thank you, and thank you again. I also want to acknowledge the birthday of my grandfather, Luther Hawley Stith, who has been going now physically for quite some time, but today is his birthday, April 27th. Family, today we're talking about a very important topic. I keep hearing this. I've been hearing this since I formally got involved in consciousness. Since I was 12 or 13 years old. I was hearing it in Harlem. I was hearing it when I went to Syracuse. I was hearing it in Ithaca when I went to Cornell. I was hearing it in Massachusetts. I'm hearing it everywhere. And I am completely against this way of thinking. This idea that this work in our movement is valuable and this work is not. Or this is the work we should be focused on and that work we should not. Or if you're not growing food, building a house, firing a gun, then you're not meaningfully involved in Black liberation. And nothing could be farther from the truth. It's very easy to destroy and dismiss that thinking. You simply got to think of all the people that you read that didn't pick up a gun, that didn't go to the African Center School, that were speaking or writing only, that weren't hardcore activists, they weren't hardcore protesters, right? But you got into consciousness because you read their book. You got into consciousness because you heard their speech. They were historians. They were people who wrote. They were people who created newspapers, who engaged in revolutionary or radical oratory, who were speakers. So we really need to stop this. We get into consciousness. Many of us were living backwoods lives. We heard a speech. We read a book. We saw a documentary. And that got us into consciousness. And now we forget how we got into consciousness. We forget what we were doing when we were backwards thinking and backwards acting and community predators. And I want to dismiss that. I want to murder that thinking once and for all, because it is creating nothing but division in our community. Who are you to put a price or value on what another man or woman is doing if they're sincere and they're trying to help our community? Stop it. Stop it. Stop it. Let me take a quick break. Let's see what our comments are. We're going to get into it. All right. We got, yes, Our Pele movement is giving me shout out for my birthday. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. My brother Bakari, who I met in Mississippi at the conference, the Black Liberation Movement conference a few years ago, is saying, giving me support. Teach my brother. My queen Brenda Lay is welcoming you to Harlem Liberation School online. You might be watching this on Twitter. You might be watching this at our YouTube channel or my Facebook page. But wherever you're watching it, we are welcoming you. We are actually saying, if you're watching on YouTube, please, family, subscribe, join the movement, and help us reach more people. So, family, I really need to get this point across. I have talked about this for years. Some of my master teachers, I just put up a post with the pictures of my master teachers, and I may have missed 3 or 4 of them. But not one of them was condescending about another black man or woman's contribution to our movement. Not one of them said, well, I'm a professor and I have a doctorate degree. And if you don't have a doctorate degree, and if you don't write books, and if you don't speak, you're not a meaningful part of our movement. Not one of them. Brother Khalid Muhammad, one of my beloved Jegnas, was a scholar. He was a dynamic speaker. He was a master of self-defense. He could kill you with his bare hands. And he was meaningfully involved in military armed struggle. For real. But never once did I hear that man say, if you don't pick up a gun, then you're not a meaningful part of our revolution. Not once. And so I really want to murder this very devastating way of looking at our people. Our people are told by white supremacy, you are nothing, you have nothing, you can do nothing. Their whole game is to demoralize us, family, to make the giant see him or herself as minuscule, to make the most powerful being on this planet look upon themselves as impotent, to make the original man and woman who created the original civilizations of this earth look upon themselves as woe is me and complaining and whining and not being active agents of their own liberation. And here some of you go and help that movement. Help us to keep our heads bent. People who have beautiful arts and drama to bring to our community. And you tell them, oh, we don't need no arts. We don't need no drama. We need you to pick up a gun and build a house, nigga. That's what we tell them in our ignorance. And so because we're ignorant and we're arrogant and think that the only thing important is what we do, we got millions of Africans and new Africans who are brilliant, who are talented, who are innovative. And they, instead of joining our movement for liberation, they bow out because they're made to feel that what they do and who they are is unimportant. And you know, when they bow out, guess who gets many of them? Guess who runs to them? The enemy. And so the enemy gets some of our best and brightest. And we participate in that when we teach, oh, you don't plant corn, you don't grow food, you don't build a house with your own bare hands, you're not defending the people with guns, you're not banging on the police, you're not important. Hold on. Before I keep going, I'm going to play the clip I got for you, family. But I really want you to think about what we're saying. I want you to really think about this. Because if we don't get this, we are, believe it or not, part and parcel of our own self-defeating behavior. Those people who push this in our community. Oh, you just talk. You don't do nothing. Hello. Wait a minute. Didn't Garvey talk? Didn't X talk? What are you talking about? Family, stop it. I take this very personally because I'm trying to be free. I've had fame. When I was a young man, I don't want your fame. I don't care who likes me. I don't give a damn who agrees. I want to be liberated. And anything that's in the way of that, I'm trying to demolish it intellectually. I'm trying to show you that the argument is weak. It's a weak premise because based on that premise, we wouldn't have any scholarship. Y'all big up Amos Wilson. Amos Wilson wasn't out there with guns. Amos Wilson wasn't protesting and picketing. Amos Wilson wasn't protesting against the police. Amos Wilson didn't grow any food or build no homes. His value was as a liberation theorist. Brother Malcolm wasn't able to do much of the activism that he prescribed to us because he was cut down too early. So he was largely a black liberation theorist. Now, Garvey was able to do a lot of that, right? But many of our greatest leaders were not involved in the actual military revolution. We need to stop that. We really need to tell the truth. But anyway, family, I'm going to get to, I see some very good comments. I'm going to put those up. Then we're going to get to this very quick 5-6 minute clip. Brother Tim is in the building. Peace to Brother Tim. The Bakari is added weighing in, saying it's a very important discussion. Iwe Pile movement weighing in, saying it's an important discussion. And the Queen is basically reinforcing what they said. Family, I am warning you, our failure to grasp what I'm saying and to really move in a different direction, to appreciate the diversity of talent and insight and personality that we have in our community will lead to our downfall. The enemy will pick us apart because we over here trying to be very arrogantly talk about, well, who's important? Guess what, family? I had master teachers had traveled the world that wrote books that many of you have read, and they never took that position. They were always just as humble and welcoming. As long as the African doesn't betray us, cause our community harm, or mislead us, or work for the enemy, they supported the African, even if this new African or African had a whole different skill set, talent, or perspective. We have to get to that level of revolutionary maturity. We have to stop this because this is something I do. This is the most important thing. That is bullshit. We need all types of things. This nation has millions of working parts. Why would our nation be any less than this nation? Family, I'm going to stop talking. I'm going to give you this right here. Or this organization is doing that real work in the community. Do you ever wonder what they mean by the real work? Today we're going to talk about why that statement, that thinking, is problematic. And we're getting started right now. Peace and Black Power family. This is your Harlem educator, author, and activist, the Black Liberation Coach, Brother Agyei Tyehimba, filming live on location in that wonderful village of Harlem. Two questions that constantly come up throughout the history of our Black liberation movement have been, one, what is real work in our community? What do we consider to be the real work? And two, what people or organizations are doing this real work? This question has been, in my opinion, the source of much division, hostility, and ugly competitiveness in our community. In my opinion, this is one of the most damaging and counter-revolutionary, counterproductive practices we could engage in. Why? It indicates and promotes selfishness and arrogance. Two, it treats our liberation like some sort of capitalist enterprise, like it's a personal possession. Three, it creates a false hierarchy of value in terms of contribution to our liberation. So, i.e., only certain contributions are important. Bad mistake teaching that type of philosophy. Four, it turns people off and it leads people away from making important contributions to our struggle. Five, it leads people and organizations to overlook their own gifts and talent if those gifts or talents or interests are not considered important or real. It leads people and organizations to waste precious time and energy proving that their work is important. You know, the braggadocio, the resume. It reduces a complex concept like Black liberation that has a lot of nuances, family, to a very simplistic and many times false criteria. It tends to emphasize quantity, again, this kind of capitalist framework or analysis, rather than quality, the impact, and the longevity of our work. I'm trying to quantify Black liberation. Let's first define what is work. Work is activity involving mental or physical effort done in order to achieve a purpose or result. Now, let's add to that definition Brother Neely Fuller's description of the 9 areas of human activity, which I refer to as the 9 areas of nation building. He says there's economics, there's education, entertainment, labor, law, politics, religion, sex, and war or counter war. So what this means to me is that if an individual or an organization in our community is involved in activity that requires mental or physical effort done in order to achieve a purpose or result in economics, education, entertainment, labor, law, politics, religion, sex, war, and counter war, they are in fact doing work, real work. And so my conclusion I reached is this: there's plenty of room in our struggle to accommodate all types of work and all types of workers. So really there's no need to invalidate other people's work in an attempt to validate our own. No one person, organization, or initiative is going to liberate Black people. We have tons of individual superstars. We got a whole lot of people, Africans in this country and throughout the diaspora, that if they wanted to, they could beat their chests. They could be braggadocious. They could say, oh, I did this, I went here, I met this one, I worked with this initiative, we were successful here. But here's the thing, we got individual superstars, but we don't have a championship team. Our team is losing all over the world. We need coalitions, alliances, systems, structures of Black folk who have different skill sets, different personality traits, different knowledge and know-how and backgrounds, working together in order to protect, advance, and liberate ourselves. Instead of trying to outdo one another, instead of trying to outperform one another, cut it out. We're not free yet, are we? Are we still getting mowed down in the streets by police? Are sisters still getting abducted and missing and we don't know where they are? Are they still killing us and gutting our bodies of organs and harvesting and selling them? Are little girls still being victimized by human trafficking? Are we still disproportionately being shipped off to privatized prisons? Isn't our unemployment rate still double that of whites as it has been for the last 60 years? Are we exerting real party political influence? No. So we're not free yet. So that's like there's 20 slaves, 100 slaves on a slave ship, or enslaved Africans rather, on a slave ship being brought to the United States. They're in shackles, they're afraid, they're angry, they're hungry, they're tired, and out of those 100, 80 of them are bragging about they got less cuts on their body than that African does. They're sleeping in less excrement than another African is. It's ridiculous when you think of that. Here in this context, y'all are all in captivity, on your way to being exploited for your labor, to being dehumanized and displaced from your cultural apparatus, your spiritual apparatus, your cosmology. And here you guys, some of these people are actually competing against each other in that scenario. Let's encourage a spirit of dedication, excellence, love, and loyalty that attracts members of our larger community to this liberation movement, this Black liberation struggle, rather than pissing them off and pushing them away. There you got it, family. The choice is yours. But if you feel where I'm coming from with that, if this resonated with you, you can do one simple thing. When you hear people in our community, regardless of what age they're in, regardless if they're the elder or they're not, regardless of if they're the most active or not, you hear them kicking this, oh, if you don't build houses, then you're not part of the revolution. If you don't do, listen, be courageous. Say, listen, brother or sister, as long as that African or new African is not bringing harm and calamity and division to our community, and as long as they have good intent and they're doing work to uplift our people, I'm not going to disavow their contribution. I'm not going to look down on them. I'm not going to say that there's only two ways. to be meaningfully involved in our revolution or liberation movement. Because if you study anything about a liberation movement or revolutionary movement, you know that that is false. They are people, family. Harry Belafonte recently died. Harry Belafonte, before he was getting involved with the activism piece of the civil rights movement, he and Sammy Davis Jr. was throwing money to the movement, giving money not just to people like Martin Luther King, but I know in the case of Sammy Davis Jr., he gave Kwame Ture, formerly Stokely Carmichael, money, allowed him to flee the United States and go to Africa for some time. In other words, there's people that all they do is fund the revolution. They don't get a picket sign. They don't bang on the cops. They're not building. They ain't planting nothing. They're not shooting nothing. That's what they do. That's how revolutions are won. People play their different positions. Those positions are recognized. People fill those positions, and people are instructed and guided to play their positions to the best of their ability. That's what it's going to take, family. But we got to stop this demoralizing, arrogant perspective of I get to decide what the important contributions are. We really have to stop that, right? My good brother Tim Miles says, life is never binary, and so revolutionary instruments cannot be either. That is absolutely correct. And I think another way of saying that is to look at it this way. If white supremacy is a 20-headed dragon whose heads can regenerate themselves even after you cut them off, then you'll surely understand that one sword or one approach will never work. Concentrating on one of the heads of those 20 heads will never work. We have to defeat this beast, and that's going to take various weapons wielded by various Africans and New Africans. And guess what, family? We might even get allies in our struggle to wield weapons, to use a know-how that we may not have access to at this point in time. Broaden your mind. What is your goal? My goal is to win. My goal is to be liberated. My goal is sovereignty, to exercise control over our politics, to be self-governing, to be able to feed ourselves, clothe ourselves, all of those things. But Malcolm didn't say by all the activist work necessary. Malcolm didn't say by the military work necessary. He said by any means necessary. I'm correct if I'm correct. Family, thank you for joining. Bob Cosmic comes on with a very good comment. What is the real work of Black liberation? Total emancipation of the Black man, woman, and child across the globe. I'm going to leave on that, family. That needs nothing, no additive. That is exactly what I'm talking about. With that said, family, peace, Black power to you. Broaden your perspective. Don't be rigid, and study nation building and formation. Study revolutionary movement. And you will have to come to agree with the perspective we share today. Peace, family, and have a beautiful day.